stares he received because of other whites. He was in New Zealand with his friend Jeanette Armstrong and an Okanagan Indian. Well, at least one of the Maori dislike Maori. I'm not sure. I don't know. Intense. I know about the Maori and the fucked up shit that's happened in New Zealand, still going on there. But I know about it to an extent, not very well read. For his race, but on the main, they were among the most welcoming people he'd ever met. As I went to leave, a couple of them gave me a beautiful black shirt with a Maori flag on the front with the caption, Maui Rangotiratanga, Maori Independence. I was as proud to wear it as they were to give it to me. I had never nigger lover, nor the contempt. God, it is just so ingrained in us not to say it. Stood the phrase, nigger lover, nor the contempt at which such race traitors are regarded. Women looked at my face, stared at my shirt, then moved their gaze back up to meet mine, their lips set and down turned, jaws tight, cheeks hard, eyes angry. I knew if given the opportunity, few of them would have been eager to hurt me. I was on my way out of the country. I experienced the hatred only for the few hours it took to get to the airport and fly across New Zealand. After that, on the international flight, and now at home, the shirt is no affront to those who don't know what it means. It's a cliche to say that one cannot imagine something, but the truth is that it's impossible for me to fathom what it would be like to receive those stares, not for a shirt I can shed, but for skin I cannot. I don't know what it would do to my heart to always be so noticed and so unwelcome no matter where I went, to be met with contempt or worse every day of the year. I think it wouldn't be very difficult for me to internalize those stares and begin even to hate myself. There's another reason why I'm glad I'm white. I enjoy getting into the prison to teach, but I enjoy even more the fact that I get to come home when I'm done. My students don't have that luxury. Did I say that name? Although blacks make up only 12.12% of the population of this country, they account for more than 45% of prison inmates sentenced to more than 1 year. The United States imprisons black men 9 times more frequently than it does whites, and 4 times more than South Africa did during apartheid. Over 30% of this nation's African American males between the ages of 20 and 29 are under criminal justice supervision, awaiting trial in jails or prisons, or on probation or parole. In some areas, the figures are even worse. In Washington, D.C., 42% of black men between the ages of 18 and 35 are under criminal justice supervision. And in Baltimore, it's 56%, more than half. During the first 2 years, California's 3 strikes law was in effect. 43% of those sentenced for a third strike were black, even though blacks only account for 7% of the population and 20% of those arrested. Hispanics, Asian Americans, and Native Americans are also grossly overrepresented in the prison system. I teach 4 classes at the prison. 3 of them are in level 4, or maximum security. 1 is in level 1, or minimum security. Out of about 60 level 4 students, 6 are white. Of 6 students in level 1, only 1 isn't. Wow. How precisely do you define a police state? Is it the number of police per capita? How about the number of prisons? Police use of machine guns or armored personnel carriers? The use of police or the military to put down strikes or to otherwise keep the trains running on time, as was Mussolini's specialty? Perhaps it's the use of the police or the military to halt civil unrest. Or maybe the widespread use of curfews, arbitrary confiscation of private property. How about this? Could a police state be defined, as in Nazi Germany, by the use of force to segregate members of a specific race into concentration camps or prisons? Those are hard questions, man. Good job. The best estimates are that every day in the United States, at least 4 to 6 people die because they encountered police. Every day. And this book is like 10 years old or some shit. I think things have gotten crazy. I think the cops got a memo and said start shooting fools and see if we can get a martial law going by people rebelling. This book is, yeah, it's 2004, 2002, 2004. Best estimates are that every day 4 to 6 people die because they encountered police. These deaths are the result of shootings, beatings, high-speed pursuits, and medical neglect in jails and prisons. The vast majority of those killed are members of racial or ethnic minorities. The vast majority of policemen are white. I wish he'd start saying like Anglo or something, because it bothers me divvying people up by color basis that was established over, hundreds of fucking years of tyranny and oppression. But especially because nobody black and nobody's brown. I'm pretty pasty, but it's fucking pink, and that's only because I've been a fucking depressed weirdo and not going in the sun. And then you know what I mean? Like, it's fucked up. I don't like calling people colors. Colors are meant for, like, carpets. The numbers could be slightly lower, or they could be substantially higher. No reliable national database exists on the use of excessive force by police. Since the passage of the Crime Control Act in 1994, the federal government has been legally required to collect national data on police use of excessive force, similar to its collection of data on hate crimes. But each year, Congress fails to provide funding. Not having data makes it much harder to recognize and analyze the problem, and that much harder to take effective action to stop it. This means that all information is anecdotal, yet the anecdotes continue to roll in, each one so much more to those involved than just an anecdote or a statistic, each one a life ended. Each of the following died unresisting. Edward Anthony Anderson, January 15th, 1996, shot while handcuffed and on the ground. Frankie Arzuaga, 15 years old, January 12th, 1996, shot in the back of the head. The following Mother's Day, his family received taunting calls from anonymous sources. They dialed star 69, got the call back. I don't even know if star 69 still works. And the police answered. Anthony Baez, December 22nd, 1994, choked to death for playing football on the streets in New York City. Rene Campos, whom police said committed suicide in custody by stuffing more than half his t-shirt down his own throat, reaching 3/4 of the way down to his lungs. Garland Carter, 17 years old, January 8th, 1996, shot in the back by police who earlier that day had driven by his home, making their fingers into the shape of a gun and firing. And Hal Castro, 15 years old, October 23rd, 1996. Having already moved out of a neighborhood because of death threats from police, Castro rode his bike back to the neighborhood to a friend's birthday party. He accidentally ran into a police cruiser, breaking his teeth. And as he rose from the ground, a cop shot him. He accidentally ran into a police cruiser. It sounds like nobody with like no exact witnesses were there, and the cops ran into the kid. To me, I mean, if you grow up and you're like, I grew up poor and like kind of criminally affiliated and shit, and you see cops, you know they're there. Like, you're always aware, no matter how drunk you are. The one thing that you're taught taking LSD and shit is cops are real, cars are real, fire is hot, and don't play with knives. There's a fifth one that doesn't matter as much, and that's don't look in the mirror. You get lost, stuck in there. My teeth is moved. Shirley Colon, April 24th, 1997, pushed off the roof of a housing project, after which police removed the cuffs which had held her hands behind her back. After which police removed the cuffs. Like while she was on the ground. Moses de Jesus, April 11th, 1994, beaten to death after his family called 911 because he was having a seizure. Amadou Diallo, at February 4th, 1999, shot 41 times as he reached for his wallet in the vestibule of his own building in New York City. Is that when I remember when they started giving out orange wallets in New York? Because the cops kept, oh, the wallet was black, it was a gun. Just killing fucking people. Arthur Diaz, September 10th, 1994, who ran when police caught him dumpster diving. He had outstanding traffic violations, after which they ran over him with their police cruiser, then backed up and ran over him again. Kenneth Brian Fennell, August 30, 1993, shot 4 times at close range after having been stopped for allegedly driving 70 miles per hour in a 65 miles per hour zone, but in reality for driving while black. Ramon Gallardo, Sr., 64-year-old retired farm worker and father of 13, July 11th, 1997, shot 15 times by a SWAT team that had gone to the wrong address. Johnny Gamage, October 12, 1995, beaten with a flashlight, then choked to death because he was a successful black businessman driving through a white neighborhood. Ralph Garrison, 69 years old, December 16, 1996, shot after calling 911 and walking to his porch carrying a gun by a black-clad SWAT team he thought was burglarizing rental property next door. For good measure, they shot his dog, too. Wayne Garrison, shot by police while hiding naked in his closet. Malice Green, beaten to death with a flashlight because he refused to open his hand, which contained a piece of paper. The convictions of the officers who killed him were overturned in part because the jury watched the movie Malcolm X during a break in deliberations. Fuck. It's all Spike Lee's fault. LaTanya Haggerty, June 4th, 1999, the first of her working class family to go to college, shot to death because she held a cell phone. Escale Hernandez Jr., 18, May 20, 1997, shot in the back of the head while herding his family goats after school. He did admittedly have a gun, but it was to protect the goats, and he never even knew he was being stalked by the cops. Solomon Arambula Hernandez, February 15, 97. Forgot to pay for gas after pumping, then drove back, paid the $5, was told by the clerk that the police had already been called. He waited for them there, and the police promptly shot him 3 times. Nicholas Hayward Jr., 11, September 27, 1994. Had been threatened by police that he would not live to 15. At 13, he was playing cops and robbers with friends using an orange toy gun. When police arrived in his building, Nicholas dropped the gun and said, we're only playing, before he was shot to death. Daryl Howerton, September 8, 1994. Shot 6 times because he was feeding someone's guard dog. Yongzin Wang, March 24, 1995, 9th grade honors student shot in the head by a police officer who first threw him into a glass door. Felix Jorge Jr., July 28th, 94, beaten by prison guards and then stuffed 15 yards. Okay, it goes on and on and on. Of course, the list is as long as you want to make it. Imagine what it must be like to walk for the first time into prison and to know that this is where you will live for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe the rest of your life. Imagine hearing the whistles and walking shackled down the long row of cells, looking up the tiers and seeing the faces looking back at you. Imagining wondering which one of them will be the one to victimize you. I was told by one of my students the real problem isn't so much with the prisons as the county jails. There, the other prisoners extort money from you, and if they like you, they beat you with tennis shoes instead of socks. Then force you to sleep on the floor under the toilet. And if they don't like you, you don't want to know. So often when a man thinks about what it would be like to enter prison, one of the first things that comes to mind is the possibility that he will be raped. That reality has entered public consciousness enough that it has become a stock joke on sitcoms and movies and in late-night television talk shows. The fear that the innocent man will be locked in a cell with love-starved Bubba, who spends his days pumping iron and his nights alone with you. That fear is not without merit. Are we still broadcasting? Yeah, we are. Hey, we got a viewer. Peace, man. Peace person. Estimates put out by the Federal Bureau of Prisons suggest the rate for male rape inside prisons run between 9 and 20%. The best and most thorough statistical prison survey of a prison, a medium security institution in California in 1982, suggested that 14% of the prison's population had been sexually assaulted there, 9% of the heterosexuals, and 41% of the homosexuals had been sexually assaulted. More recently, a researcher conducted a survey of the entire Nebraska prison system. 22% of those who responded indicated they'd been forced to have sexual contact. These estimates are universally regarded as conservative. I need to add, however, that when I asked my level 1 students in the prison about this, many of these students, having been previously in higher security prisons, they all stated that they had rarely seen or heard of incidents of prison rape, and I believe them, as well as suffusing public awareness and becoming fodder for throwaway jokes. This extreme level of rape inside prisons, presuming that my students are exceptions to what seems to be a statistical rule, has generated no small amount of outrage. The level is high enough to have caused a court of appeals in 1998 to label it a national disgrace. Perhaps even more damning, Vermont's Commissioner of Corrections called it a fact of life for those behind bars, and then went on to elaborate that few aspects of incarceration are more horrifying than the prospect of sexual exploitation and forcible rape within jail and prison walls. It is a subject to which society reacts with a combination of fear, disgust, and denial. We don't want to believe that our criminal justice system tolerates such a cruel and unusual form of punishment. However, this is a brutal reality faced daily by inmates in crowded prisons and jails throughout the country, including bucolic Vermont. The issue of coerced sex will simply not go away. Most people acknowledge that, at least on the inside, rape is not a sex crime but a crime of power. In an all-male prison, the absence of women forces men to create women, that is, to create a subordinate class, the feminine to their masculine, the submissive to their aggressive, the penetrated to their penetration, to create a class of the fucked. Gender roles are socially recreated. He's really going somewhere with this, so stay tuned, I hope you do, because it really kind of, it's a good whammy. To create a class of the fucked. Gender roles are socially recreated in this crucible of powerlessness, this place where nearly everyone has been deprived of most of his power. Power of movement, power of eating when and what you want, sleeping when you want or with whom you want, power to choose one's associates, which makes every remaining act fraught with meaning, a flashpoint for personal power. One of my students had his throat slit ear to ear because he stole someone's shoes, then bragged about it. When shoes are invested with this much meaning, how much more so the integrity of one's body? It is no wonder that in a social setting where so many have been systematically deprived of so much power, that so many strike out with what's left to them. Rape in prison breaks down strongly along racial lines. In a 1968 benchmark study, a prison rape researcher found that 15% of the cases involved white aggressors and white victims. 29% involved black aggressors and black victims, and 56% involved black aggressors and white victims. No case involving white aggressors and black victims were reported. At first, these results didn't seem so meaningful as they later would because the vast majority of the inmate population in question was black. The number alone would have skewed the statistics, but more recent studies have confirmed similar ratios at prisons where as few as 22% of the inmates are black. Most of the people who've studied this pattern concur that patterns of racial domination in prison often become mirror images of social dynamics on the outside. Now white people, and especially the white middle class, are victimized in a not so subtle revenge for what goes on in the real world. He states that he is glad he was born male. Something interesting of the rate in which men in prison are raped. It's lower than the rate at which women are raped in the culture at large. Most studies suggest that 25% of women in the United States are raped during their lifetimes, and another 19% have to fend off rape attempts. I suppose you could say that for women, and not just those in prison, rape is a fact of life. When a man goes to prison, everybody seems to think, oh shit, he's gonna get raped. But every day, women walk down the streets or stay in their homes and face that same possibility. I don't know what to make of the fact that when I do a quick Alta Vista search of the internet using the keyword rape, I get far more pornography sites than any other category. Rape crisis hotlines, support groups, scholarly analysis, histories, news, and so on. Pornography makes up more than a third of the total sites. And remember, the key word here was rape, not sex, body, nude, or even vagina, penis, dick, or pussy. We're talking action, not anatomy. Yeah, people are into that shit, and it's pretty fucking sick. I mean, I'm a kinky motherfucker in real life, you know, but I don't know. Internet fucking porn is just a gross thing. I've visited some of those sites, leaving aside the more obvious and routine treatment of women as objects to be invaded. Feeling a little sneaky? Take a tour through a house with live hidden cams. Watch unsuspecting victims get caught. Shower cam. Inside her toilet cam. I was struck by the sheer number of depictions of outright violence against women, accompanied by a correspondingly violent and, sorry to be naive, disrespectful ambience. Nasty little breeders. You command the action of these young sluts. Your wish is their command. Look at these dirty little Asian sluts. Fuck this Asian teen in every hole. And there were images of women tied, being struck with jars or feet or things I couldn't quite figure out in their vaginas. The point here is not to express rage at the express outrage at the depictions, though that would be easy enough to do, but to point out once again of hate. I strongly suspect if the photos were not of women, but instead of members of a protected class, imagine sites with tens of thousands of pictures of black men bound because they're black, with captions like, "You command the action of these young bucks," or white men gagged because they are white, with captions labeling them dirty little breeders. The sites would be recognized as promoting hate. The organizations that monitor hate groups would watch closely, but even the most comprehensive hate watch sites, for example the extraordinary Hate Directory, which monitors even such obscure sites as, I don't know if I should name sites for people to go to. Hopefully anybody watching this is cool, right? Christian Nationalists, Cyber Ministries, Sodomy Information Center. That's all one. That's all one site. American Christian Nationalists, Cyber Ministries, Sodomy Information Center, Grindel's White Power Video Games, and Why Christians Suck. Do not count these as hate sites. What's that? Truth be told, I've yet to encounter any of the racist sites 1/100th, the crudity or overt violence manifest at these. He's talking about the porno sites again. He's saying that like he's gone and he's scoped out the KKK site and a bunch of these fucking lame-o sites, and that like the shit that's on them isn't 1/100th the crudity or overt violence that is in those porn sites. the rape-oriented porn sites. This is not to say the racist sites aren't hateful, but rather to point out an obvious blind spot. This all leads to a slew of questions. The first and most obvious is, why are materials depicting and reveling in violence against women not counted as hate propaganda? The protected class argument doesn't actually work in the case of the hate directory, because the directory's criterion statement reads, included are internet sites of individuals and groups that, in the opinion of the author, advocate violence against, separation from, defamation of, deception about, or hostility toward others based upon race, religion, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. The second, and in many more ways more important and profound question is, why are some forms of hate so transparent to us? The third, and perhaps most troubling question is, how many more of these invisible forms of hate are there? Alright, I'm gonna call it for a good bit. I don't know. I will keep doing this and read more. I really, again, suggest buying the book, The Culture of Make-Believe by Derrick Jensen, 2 R's, I-C-K-J-E-N-S-E-N. Available, I'm sure, with a real quick Google search, Amazon. I know that these are available on Amazon for your Kindle or whatever. It's a big one. It's really good. It's kind of textbook ready. You know, you can tell he really paid attention in school. Good boy. I'm a loner, Dottie. A rebel. You don't want to get mixed up with a guy like me. But, yeah, so I'm like a dropout and stuff. No job, no money, no house. Yeah, I got a place to live. It's basically painted prison walls. I'm practically on house arrest. So I play video games and read books. Love you guys. I'll be back. I gotta eat something and, I don't know, do something else for a good little bit.